everybody, I'm Chris and this is Jim and we're Midlife Travel Bug. And today we are super excited to share with you our experiences through Puglia and Italy and the amazing places that we visited.
Now we spent 19 days in Puglia. Puglia is located in the heel of the boot of Italy, and it was one of the most fantastic experiences that we've been a part of. So we're going to talk today about our itinerary that we had in Puglia. We're going to show you where we went and how many days we spent, what we would do differently if we went back. And if you stick around to the end, we're going to show you all of our costs for accommodations, transportation, what else? Food and attractions.
Stay with us and we're going to show you what it costs for us to stay for 19 days in August, so peak season.
Yeah.
So what does that actually look like when you're in Italy and what does it cost you?
So to get to Puglia, there's a couple international airports. There's one in Bari and there's one in Brindisi. So we flew in from Tirana, Albania, right into Brindisi. Now, the reason we flew into Brindisi is because...
Well, a couple of reasons. We were contemplating taking a ferry over from Albania, but ended up deciding to fly. Now, I didn't know that there was actually an international airport in Brindisi, but there was. So we ended up flying in Brindisi. It was cheaper for us, number one. Number two, we were sort of going to do a little circuit through Puglia as well. So it kind of shaved off a little bit of time from the Bari area.
So Brindisi is located in between Lecce and Bari, so it was a very convenient place to fly into. And it's one of the largest port cities in the Puglia region, so right on the Adriatic Sea.
We weren't expecting much. It was kind of for us just a port of entry into the Puglia region so that we could continue on our journey. We thought we'd just take a night or two and just sort of get acclimatized and then move around the area. But if you watch our previous video on Brindisi, it was actually a pretty magical place. We were definitely surprised.
There's lots to see and do. There was a fantastic boardwalk right along the port there.
Mm-hmm.
The marina was awesome. We went over and saw...
The old city was pretty spectacular too. In fact, like I said, we were actually really surprised with Brindisi and we weren't expecting too much, but if you have the time and you have to fly in there instead of Bari, I would definitely recommend spending a day there. It was a lot of fun.
It was a very clean city. That's what one of the first things we noticed is very clean, and the food was great. So we were very happy that we chose Brindisi to stay in, and then from there we took a train down to Lecce.
We did.
Yeah, so Lecce was a 4-night stay, and we used it as a little bit of a home base for us. Lots to see and do in Lecce, one of the oldest cities in the Puglia region, and wow, it was
Well, it was
awesome.
a university town, a college town, and we were really surprised with all the things there were to do there. We even tried to get soccer tickets to the Lecce soccer team, but unfortunately it was sold out. Lots
of churches to go into. You can buy a city pass, which includes what?
I think it was a 4-church pass and a museum as well, and the churches were really interesting because they were all intricately different from the next. And again, the city, the old town itself,
huge Baroque style buildings and the churches.
The castle that was there. They actually call it, or we've heard the quote,
the Florence of the South. Florence of the South. So absolutely stunning. Lots of parks.
Lots of evening nightlife. Yeah. Like there were markets happening and things to do in the evening. Really kind of came alive. But we had a really great time there. We're glad we spent the extra days. And what else did we do from there? So
we took a day trip from Lecce to Gallipoli.
Now Gallipoli was I guess a 40-minute drive by bus. And it was on the other side of the heel of the boot. So it was a seaside village town that had, a fishing presence that was kind of in a little castle and an amazing beach. We had some pretty good poochies there. There's the type of sandwich that you could have. It was definitely worth the day trip. That we're glad that we went. Really easy to get to and
very walkable. They got some markets there as well.
Yes.
Definitely a day trip though. Like we're glad we just took the day and we didn't spend the night there. I think you can see everything in the daytime.
I almost contemplated putting us there for a night or so just to stay, but I think the day trip was probably enough, and we saw enough that we wanted to see in that day trip, so keep that in mind. When we left Lecce, we carried on by bus and we went to a small town called Martina Franca. Now, Martina Franca was close to some other little small towns that we wanted to visit, and for us, it was probably more of a budget choice, which is why we chose that town. But much to our surprise, it was actually one of our favorite towns. We were kind of overwhelmed with how pretty it was. Number one, the small town was just spectacular, and the evening atmosphere that we experienced in the city itself was so much fun. Now, I guess they host a yearly annual opera festival.
International Opera Festival. It's in the Itria Valley. So Martina Franca is a perfect little spot to...
It was a good home base.
Yeah, to set yourself up for home base so that you can see a lot of little cool towns that are around there. But man, Martina Franca blew us away with how pretty it was. The intricate streets, the flowers everywhere.
Yeah, it was very pretty.
The International Opera Festival, they have almost like banners everywhere on every street that you're walking through, and it was
very charming.
Incredibly charming and cool. They got this massive cathedral that is just spectacular, and of course the food was...
And I think because at least I booked this place on a budget factor for us when we were there. We were booking very last minute for every place we were at. And I wasn't too sure what to expect because you hear more about some of the other cities that we go to visit on day trips, but it turned out to be one of the best choices we made on a budget, I think, of this whole trip. So we felt like we chose very wisely because it had a little bit more action happening in the city, especially in the evening. There was a little more shopping, a little bit more nightlife atmosphere as far as like music scenes, restaurant scenes, and just things to do. So
Martina Franca is a place that I could stay longer too. I think
we did talk about if we had to come back for a month or so and staying somewhere, Martina Franca is definitely the top of our list. So.
Speaking of day trips, we took 2 day trips while we were in Martina Franca.
Really easy to do.
Yeah, so we went to Albero Bello, which is very tough to say for me, but we spent a day there, and that has the Truly houses, and those Truly conical roof houses.
I think for me that was such a magical city. Like it was, I don't even know how to describe it. You see a lot of parts of historical places, but there's nothing like that one because the cone-shaped roofs, and the city itself was much bigger than we anticipated. There was more to see than we thought. And I think it was about a half an hour train ride. No, we bused there and I think we trained back.
That's right. And there's about a 20-minute walk from the train station up to the old part of town.
Not bad at all.
100% worth doing Albero Bello because
one of my favorite places for sure.
Definitely.
So one of the other day trips we did from Martina Franca was the town called Loco Rotondo. Now this was a beautiful city, and it was known for its circular shape and whitewashed buildings. And the other thing that was sort of special about this town was apparently the shape of the roof line. So the Truly houses in Arbella were known for their circular round shaped buildings, but this particular town had more of an A-frame style roof line.
It did, and it's also known for its white wines.
More important to Jim.
So definitely a great day trip. We walked around that town. We had some wine. Obviously, we tested some of the wines, and it was phenomenal.
It was about a 20-minute train ride from Martina Franca, and it was probably 15 or 20 minutes from the local town Arbella as well. So easily doable in a day trip. And we were actually glad that we just did a day trip. I think we'd seen enough just in a few hours. We were able to walk the city and enjoy the streets and all that it had to offer. But another beautiful city to see for sure in that area.
So after we left Martina Franca, our next destination was to home base in Ostuni. Now we took a train/bus combo to get to Ostuni. It was a little bit difficult because we had to transfer from
Sisterino was the
Yeah.
town that we transferred in.
So we took a train to Sisterino, which was very short, and then we had to take about a 2 kilometer walk uphill into the
Straight
town
uphill.
to catch the bus that took us to Ostuni. Now, in hindsight, like if we had a car, no problem. Uber may have been a little bit better.
I think it was going to be close to 60 to 80 euros just to get
That's
from
right.
one place to the next. So it was a little tricky to get there based on the public transportation, but it was completely doable. I think for me, a couple of regrets would have been that we went, it was very hot, but we also should have just walked into the town of Sisterino because that's also one of the highlights of the area. However, by the time we got there, there was only like a bus that we could have caught that was leaving fairly quickly. So if we'd missed that bus, we might have been stuck in that city. Also, the location of the pickup for the bus in Sisterino to get to Ostuni was a little vague. So we were lucky we kind of timed it okay and we made it, but just food for thought if you're going to transfer through those areas. Transportation going from some areas is a little bit more difficult, but it was still doable.
We did talk about that in our Ostuni video, so please check that out.
Yes.
Because we mentioned how we got there. But the 4 nights in Ostuni, like wow, we had a perfect location right above the main square. It was absolutely beautiful.
If you see in our Ostuni video, our Airbnb, well, it wasn't an Airbnb, booking.com location was a hands down perfect find. We loved it so much. It was right above the square, like Jim was saying. Now, the thing about Ostuni is you could do it in a day trip for sure. However, the best part of Ostuni is also the evening time because it's such a whitewashed city on top of the hill. The views are spectacular, but the evening atmosphere is definitely when all the fun kind of happens in that city. So
lots of lights that come alive. The square is amazing. They have an
churches.
incredible cathedral there that was just spectacular
It was
to
beautiful.
see. And again,
the views from there too, because you're perched on top of a hill, you can see all the way down, all around the whole entire city. The old city itself, walking was very beautiful.
Quite the history with Ostuni, being the whitewashed limestone actually helped them during the plague because of the limestone that they used to paint the buildings. So yeah, definitely lots of history. It's a great little place. The biggest problem with Ostuni was that it was about 2 kilometers from the old town to the train station. And that
straight
was
uphill.
Yeah.
So we did walk downhill to the train station to do some day trips from there. And you can, I don't think I'd recommend it. We did it once and we realized there was a bus, but it was a little more difficult in that town to get from the city to other places. So if you were to go to Ostuni, we might suggest just going and spending 2 nights and then maybe carrying on somewhere else if you had the opportunity. But very beautiful city, worth seeing it for sure. Hands down, very picturesque and very beautiful.
So while we stayed in Ostuni, we took a couple of day trips, and we took a day trip to Monopoli, where we were gonna originally stay as a home base, but for some reason our host that we booked with canceled on us.
I guess his family was coming last minute, so we got bumped. But
yeah, so that's why we didn't stay in Monopoli. We love Monopoli. I think Monopoli is a great home base. It's not far from Bari. It's on the coast. It's got the beaches. It's got the old historic, the
blue boats and the fishing village that's very picturesque, and the castle on the shoreline there. And that was our original plan, was to stay there for the 4 nights. And Ostuni was really a lot of fun, but I think we were smart in the first round trying to stay in Monopoli, and we would recommend that in the future as well.
Then another day trip we took was Polignano Amare, which is a picturesque,
very famous
cliffside town right on the sea. So we walked around the seawall. It was pretty incredible. They got like a famous beach that you'll see all over Instagram.
It has the cave restaurant there as well.
Yeah.
We didn't get the chance to go just based on costs. It was one of those things that was definitely out of our budget. But if you do go to that area, definitely make sure you book it in if it's in your budget for sure.
Yeah, they have the Red Bull cliff diving circuit that goes there every year as well. So it's just
Epic,
a really
epic views,
yeah,
like from
really
all
picturesque.
the scenic spots of that city. You could see the coastline views with the buildings that were built on the side with the cliff, and absolutely a stunning city for sure. I mean, we were able to manage to see it in a day. You could stay there and have it as a home base because it's about 15 to 20 minutes from Monopoli, which is really close, and it's both those two cities are also actually really close to Bari. So if you did position yourself in Bari, you could day trip to both those cities and just do them as well. However, if I had to choose, I think I would choose Monopoli to stay for a home base.
Yeah, Monopoly ticked the boxes for myself, and Polignano Amare was a little smaller, I think.
It's a good day trip.
Yeah, I think the day trip was fine there.
So after 4 fabulous nights in Ostuni and the day trips that we took, we decided to head towards Matera. Now Matera was a little bit out of the way for us. We weren't sure if we were going to make it the time working our trip, but we are so glad that we did because it was one of the highlights of our trip. So we trained from Ostuni back to Bari. Bari, we had to make a bit of a transfer and then head back another direction to get up to Matera. And we had 2 nights in Matera.
Matera is a place that you must see if you're in that region. Matera is the 3rd oldest inhabited city in the world. Goes back centuries and centuries and centuries, and oh my gosh, what a place that just blew our minds. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
people go there because of the history and people that lived in the caves for centuries and centuries. Like, I had no idea what to expect. We travel, Chris books the places, I show up and I'm like, oh my god, this place is amazing. Matera blew my mind. James Bond was filmed there, one of the movies was filmed there, lots of movies filmed there.
I think it was called A Time to Die, wasn't it?
Yeah, No Time to Die.
No Time to Die, but you know, it's funny because we almost missed the city because it was a little bit out of the way, but it was the best thing that we did on a detour. And if you head to the Puglia region, if you have the time, don't miss this city. The sassy areas are well worth spending the time to go into. A car can't go in there. In fact, you'd probably be best to park and leave it behind if you had a car, or just take the train in. But make sure you stay right in those areas because you really get a better feel for what that city has to offer as far as the cave dwellings. We stayed in a little tiny place, but it was right in, kind of built in the cave that was into the back part of
the churches are built right into the mountain. The restaurants are into the caves.
If you want romance, like Jim talks about a lot, Matera, it hits all the things that is so different from the rest of Italy. I would say it was one of our favorites.
It's so unique that it was just, like I said, mind-blowing. I don't even know how to describe it other than, like, it really was one of my favorite places that I've been to.
So we spent 2 nights and we loved it so much that we wish that we had spent at least a bare minimum of 3 nights because we got through it. We didn't get through all of it, but it was definitely the highlight of our trip. So if you have the time, spend a few extra nights and really do yourself a due diligence and wander around these ancient cities. But what a spectacular time we had. So after leaving our fabulous 2 nights in Matera, we headed down back to Bari, which would be our final destination in Puglia. We spent a total of 3 nights there. And again, another beautiful stop in the Puglia area. It's known for its fantastic food. The nonas, I think they're called nonas, that make the orecchiette pastas in the streets. Beautiful castle, and the food scene that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, lots of markets to go in there and see the streets in the old town. You can get lost in, and just another big city in Puglia that honestly it was pretty fantastic. There's lots to see and do in Bari, similar to Lecce as far as the size and everything, I think. And it was just international airport there. So either you're going to fly into Bari, you're going to fly into Brindisi, or train into one of these places, but definitely worth seeing. The food scene was amazing in Bari.
Yeah,
for sure.
It was definitely a place, again, it's one of those places of entry or exit, or both for that matter.
Right on the coast as well.
Right on the coast. We had a great time. We ended up renting some of those little electric scooters and sort of tootling down to the beach. We did have a good time, but we were sad that that was our final destination in the Puglia region. So we had a total of 19 days, and we spent 2 days in Brindisi, 4 days in Lecce, 4 days in Martina Franca, 4 days in Ostuni, 2 days in Matera, and 3 days in Bari. That was our total trip, I believe. Now, some of the things that we would do differently. Number one, we would have stayed in Monopoli instead of Ostuni based on the easeability to get around from Monopoli, and we just liked the atmosphere that was in Monopoli and wish that we'd stayed there, especially in the evenings. Ostuni was really cool, but like we said earlier, it was harder to get from the train station up into the town just based on distance and walkability. The other thing was we would have probably added an extra night to Matera. We didn't feel like 2 nights did it justice. We wanted to see more, and we left feeling like we want to go back, which is always a good thing, but also it would have been nice to have an extra night there. Bari, we probably could have gotten away with just the 2 nights and had 1 full day in Bari, but glad that we also saw it, and that's where we left was Bari, and we flew back up to Rome. So
yeah, I think one of the surprises was how close Monopoli was to Bari. So even just coming into Bari, flying in from another place would be really easy just to take a train down to
it's a
Monopoli.
20-minute train ride from, I believe, Bari, or 20 to 30-minute train ride from Bari to Monopoli. And if you are coming from another destination into Europe to there, I think I'd just suggest getting off the plane and just heading straight to Monopoli as a home base. The one thing about Ostuni is it's good to visit for a day trip, but the other thing that's special about Ostuni is the evening time. So at least spend 1 night if you could. Probably be enough time to see everything you need to see in Ostuni as well.
I think the best choice we made was making Martina Franca a home base for the 4 nights. I think that was
enjoyed that a lot.
Perfect. I think that if you're coming into that area, don't overlook Martina Franca. And also Matera, again, was one of our favorites.
Now, the other thing we should talk about is transportation. So we chose to use public transportation this entire trip, and it's completely doable. We did it, and it wasn't bad at all. There was a couple places that were a little bit hiccupy, but the most was pretty easy. I would do it if you don't want to drive. It's definitely an option, and affordability wise, it was certainly affordable. However, we were there for 19 days. Now, if we'd had a car rental, we probably would have seen more areas and more cities that would have maybe been more accessible by car, just because we wasted a lot of time waiting for trains. So those are 2 options to keep in mind. You can do both. If you're happy to drive, then you can get a car. If you're happy to take transportation, at least there's options. I think it was more easy to get around that area than it would have been in other areas we've been in Italy. So keep that in mind if you're wanting to drive and you have less time. Maybe a car is a way to go. And if you have a little bit more time, transportation was really easy.
So if you only had a week, where would you go?
Well, my favorite places were Arbello Bello. I'd go to Monopoli, Pulamare, Ostuni, and if I could stretch it in there, I'd probably squeak in that Matera area. But a week just wouldn't be long enough. But if that's all you had, I'd definitely suggest those areas.
Yeah, if you had a week, I would say Matera you should see, because it's just that incredible of an experience to see it. I would say that you would home base in maybe Monopoli for a few days, and Martina Franca with day trips to Albero Bello and Loca Rotondo, the Itria Valley, which is the wine region as well. That was very pretty. So try to centralize in there. If you had longer, obviously I would venture down to Lecce. Lecce's a great city that you shouldn't miss. We're hoping that you don't just go to Puglia for 7 days. You should go for longer.
If you had 10 days to 2 weeks, you could probably see enough of the big highlights, and that would be sufficient. Of course, we always want more time, but in 2 weeks, I think you could probably see it fairly well.
Yeah.
And I think if you didn't have to rely on public transportation, you'd definitely be able to get around a little faster. So like we told you at the beginning of the video, we like to wrap up our total costs and what that looked like for our entire time. So a total of 19 days. So we're going to break it down to 4 categories. We have accommodations, food, transportation, and attractions. So accommodations. So we spent a total of 19 nights in the Puglia region, and the total cost for 19 nights was $2,368 Canadian. worked out to approximately $125 Canadian per night. So not bad. We were there in peak season in the middle of the summer, and we also booked all of these things extremely last minute, like less than 2 weeks to be, for example.
Next category we're going to talk about is the food. And for
Our favorite part.
Our favorite part. So we also include the wine and all the bakeries. And
Aperol spritzes, happy hours.
Happy hours and everything in the food. So for the 19 nights, it came to $1,618 Canadian, which worked out to about $85 per day for the two of us. Now, that's a little higher than we like to spend, but again, we kind of go out and we cheap out for the lunches. We try to get the fast food if we can.
And part of our entertainment, which you'll notice our entertainment budget is lower. Part of our entertainment personally is we love to just sit down for a happy hour and just watch the world go by and soak up the energy of the places we're at. So
yeah, and by fast food I mean like we're going to the bakeries and we're going to the carts and everything to buy our sandwiches. So coffee, cappuccinos, and then we'll go out for a dinner every night. So we spent 85 Canadian dollars per day on our food.
So the next category is transportation. Now we use public transportation from trains to buses. I don't think we used any taxis this trip.
One.
Well, we did use
Local
one.
Rotondo to Martina Franca.
We did. We got lazy that night. We were tired. So I think it was 20 euros to get from Local Rotondo back to Martina Franca. And I think we also took a little boat ride, which was really fun. And we also rented those little e-scooters and drove along the promenade in Bari, which was actually a lot of fun. We enjoyed that a lot. So our total cost for that was $225. So cheaper than a car rental, definitely. It was a great experience. So not too bad on the transportation, and we moved quite a bit. So
we did miss the car rental. We wish we had a car rental while we were there, but it just didn't work out budget-wise for us, and that's why we strictly chose public transportation.
Yeah, I think the cost of the car rental for that entire time, for the 19 days, I think it would have had it for about 2 weeks, probably in the middle of that. It was going to cost about $500 to $600 at the time that we were there, which was in August. So, and then gas and parking, so it would have been a lot more expensive, I think.
Yeah, we do have a great deal on rental cars, and that's in a link in our description below.
We booked so last minute. We actually had plans to go to a different country, and at the last minute we kind of recalculated and ended up in the Puglia area, but with no regrets for sure. So last and not least is our attraction costs. Now, we only spent $63 for the entire time that we were there, which is extremely low. Now, keep in mind, we went to the 4 churches in Lecce, which was about 12 euros per person. We did a little boat ride. We did a few other little things, some truly houses to visit as well. But most of the places in that area were free. And some of the cave dwellings we also spent a little bit of money on entering in Matera.
Some of the museums, yeah.
Yeah, but for the most part, it was actually a pretty economical place for attractions for us, because most of the beauty of visiting this area were actually just the cities themselves. So
Italy in general, you could pretty much see these amazing historic sites for free a lot of the time, the churches.
And the whitewashed towns that you're walking around. So nothing short of spectacular. The costs for that were pretty spectacularly cheap for us too.
So that brings us to our total cost for the whole trip for the 19 days was $4,274 Canadian, which was a little steep for us, but what an experience. And you could do Puglia for almost 3 weeks for under $5,000 as a couple. So keep that in mind, that it is affordable. You can keep your costs down.
We were there in August, so keep that in mind. We were there last minute also. Now, most places in Europe, you tend to book out like months in advance, because otherwise there's lack of choices and the prices go up. We booked less than 2 weeks out because we changed our plans last minute, and it was still reasonably affordable, all things considered. No regrets for going. It was one of our absolute favorite places to visit. So yeah, that's Puglia for 19 days in August. So we really hope this helps you out with planning your Puglia visit and your experience in the southern part of Italy. We had a fabulous time, but we want to say if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you have, thank you so much for following us. And we can't wait to share with you our next adventure, which is coming up soon. Thanks for watching. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.